Hey guys, what's going on? Banana156 here with another video. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. And this is the second part of my countries that will fall videos. In the last video, I went over how Egypt and South Africa, or why Egypt and South Africa will fail or will collapse. And in this video, I'm going to go over 3 more countries. And yeah, so first, I'm going to go over like third world countries that will collapse, at least in the next 20 years. And they're going to be like third world countries that matter. Like they're not going to be like Chad or something like that in Africa. Like there'll be countries that matter, like Egypt and South Africa, like that level of country. And they won't be like first world countries either, like Canada, who could split up. It will be like third world and one second world country. But yeah, so first I'm gonna go over the main factors that I'm going to be factoring in on why these countries will collapse. And but yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing is a lot of these countries are in early industrialization, which is a huge factor in why they will collapse. A lot of countries that were early in their industrialization, like Russia in 1920 or the US in 1860, had huge wars because their early industrialization causes a lot of problems. Like a lot of the forces that destabilize countries during early industrialization is population growth, like the population spikes, which a lot of these countries are experiencing, especially in Africa. Rising inequality, so like the top 1% have way more wealth than the rest, and this is very common in a lot of third world countries. And then a massive social frustration because of wealth inequality, or because of inequality in general, and transitioning from an agricultural society to an industrialized one. And the last main factor is crowding due to urbanization. So like from my last video on Egypt, Cairo's population grew like by 50 million people or something crazy like that. Or maybe not 50 million, but it grew. Cairo's population grew significantly, and that caused a lot of overcrowding, which led to Egypt creating a new which is leading to Egypt trying to create a new capital. But yeah, so that's early industrialization. The next factors I will consider are declining American influence, which is like America is pulling out of areas because they want to mainly focus on like their European allies and the Far East. And this has been happening for a while. We're starting to pull out of the Middle East and Africa. The next thing is collapsing capital, which the capital is going down because the capital is just going down. The next factor is global warming or climate change, because climate change and global warming is going to displace a lot of people and cause them to have to move, which won't be good. And the next one is a lot of Western countries are trying to put some more immigration regulations in, making it harder for people to immigrate, which means a lot of more people will have to stay in their countries, which could cause a lot of turmoil. So the first country I want to talk about is Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is a really odd country, and it's a theocratic monarchy, and I don't think it should have ever existed. It's made up of a ton of tribes that constantly fight with each other, and it's made of these tribes that constantly fight with each other, and it is incredibly oppressive over its people, and it lucked into a ton of oil once oil became useful in like the early 1900s, which was incredibly lucky for them. The next thing is, and they have a huge welfare state that props up the top part of the economy, or the upper classes, which is incredibly top heavy, and it is very oil dependent, and the rest of it is left for to a unhappy migrant class who do the rest of the dirty work. And everything is oil dependent in Saudi Arabia. There is nothing that isn't oil dependent, and there's not enough people in the country getting STEM degrees to diversify an economy. And this is worrisome? Well, because, well, you wouldn't think it's worrisome right away, because Saudi Arabia produces oil as the cheapest in the world. But America is leaving Saudi Arabia, and because America is their own producers of oil now, and they're tired of being in the area, along with a bad taste in their mouth because of 9/11. So they're leaving Saudi Arabia, which could lead to Iran to take a ton of land, which is easy for Iran because the oil reserves are on the eastern side of the country, which makes it close geographically to Iran, and Iran, which call themselves and first off, that part of the Saudi Arabian country is Shia, and the Shia are massively oppressed by the Saudi Arabian government, and Iran is the self-proclaimed protector of the Shia, so that gives Iran even more incentive. And not only that, Iraq borders Saudi Arabia, and Iraq is Iran's ally, so that makes it makes it way too easy for Iran to come in. And if Iran does come in, it would be easy for them because the land is completely flat, and the Saudi Arabian military isn't that incredibly good. And the monarchy is actually more scared of the military to be used against the monarchy than to actually use it for things. And they're not a very coherent nation, and I think Iran could take that land. And if it does, I could see Turkey coming in and taking Mecca and Medina, and then the rest of the country just falls into chaos. That's my prediction for Saudi Arabia. The next country I want to talk about is Indonesia. I think Indonesia shouldn't have been a nation at all. It has over 300 languages spoken in it. All the islands are incredibly different from each other. They have different ethnic groups, different cultures, and the only real thing that all the islands have in common, or all the ethnic groups have in common, is Dutch colonization. And this leads to Java, or the capital Jakarta, almost being a colonial empire, trying to manage all these different revolts on the different islands, leading from all different extremes. But that makes it really hard for them to get, or really hard for the country to exist because of all the tensions. It's kind of like how all the borders in Africa don't make any sense. But yeah, so it does have the economy going for it. It has had economic growth, and it has seen the poverty rate go down to 9%, which is better than it was, and it has seen inequality get better. But that being said, it is still the fourth most unequal nation on the planet, and a lot of the inequality is ethnic based, which causes a lot of animosity and makes people not happy. So like the Chinese population there, which is 1% of the population, contains 75% of the economy. 75%, which causes a lot of hatred towards them and a lot of ethnic tensions. And with their economy, they also fall into the trap of the poor nation, where they're too poor to buy what they're making, which is normally on like the lower end, which is like t-shirts and raw materials and such. So they can't do that either. But yeah, I do think that Indonesia does have a better chance than a lot of the countries I've talked about, because China doesn't want them to fall either because of the China population there, and America doesn't want them to fall either. So I feel like with those two supporting them, Indonesia, I think it could divide, but I don't think it would be a bloodbath or a huge war like some of the other nations could be. I do think it could be like a quick civil war with the Chinese and the Americans shepherding it along the way, and it would be pretty quick, and then it would divide, and it would be like how it should be, just each island is its own nation. But yeah, that's Indonesia, and the next nation I want to talk about is North Korea, which is technically a second world nation, but it's gonna fall, and I think it's fairly obvious why. North Korea is a Stalinist nation. It's and a fascist nation at that, and the most oppressive government in the world. It oppresses its people tremendously. It's amazing that it survived as long as it does. Its economy is terrible. It's incredibly authoritarian, and it's just a terrible government, and it shouldn't have lasted the last 30 years, and I doubt it lasted the next 20. the only real driving force keeping North Korea alive is its huge military, which is the fourth largest in the world. And but North Korea knows that they're weak and that they're pretty close to collapsing, and that's why they want to push for a nuclear bomb. They want to end up becoming powerful enough to just bully the rest of the world into giving them money so they can stay alive. That's why they want a nuclear bomb, because they know they can't survive on their own. They know that the clock is ticking and that it's coming to an end. And like even China wants a unified Korea and one with South Korea's economic model. But the only problem there is that if that would happen, South Korea is America's ally, and unifying Korea and having South Korea move into the north would essentially be putting American soldiers on China's border, which China doesn't want. And also, China wouldn't want America on their borders. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that North Korea is gonna fall. I don't know exactly how, but I bet it will in the next 20 years. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys